Hi everyone, I'm Carey Pena and welcome to the Inspired Media 360 Studios. Normally we focus a lot on inspiration, motivation, transformational programming. Today we are doing something a little bit different. I thought this was very important. I welcomed my friend Letitia Frye into the studio with us today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
We are talking about COVID-19, and in particular today we're talking about this massive impact that the virus is having on nonprofits here in Arizona and across the country. Letitia is one of the most famous, if not the most famous, auctioneer in the entire United States, and you are booked solid with nonprofit events. However, there is a huge fallout because now we're being told not to gather in fact, I just heard the president saying a few minutes ago they're encouraging no larger than groups of 10.
Yep.
So just talk to me about sort of the response that you're hearing to this pandemic.
Okay, so for those of you that just want to make this real clear what Carey's talking about, because we were supposed to be on a stage today, we're talking about nonprofit charity benefit events that can range anywhere from 175 people to 1,175 people or more. For me, on average during this time of year, I average anywhere from 5 to 8 a week. So my phone's been ringing off the hook. So here's what this has meant to the nonprofit world as of right now, and I do not just work in this state, I work all over the country. From as large a nonprofit as St. Jude Children's Research Hospital to as small as a mom and pop startup. So let's just discuss this, what it means on an overall scale.
Yeah.
What it means right now is that this too shall pass. What it means is that we're not looking at a permanent situation, but we're looking at a pivot inside of an immediate situation. So what that means is that based upon what we've learned about COVID-19, in and around the next probably 3 months, with maybe 4, we're going to actually land back on our feet and get back to normalcy and a normal life. That meaning for my nonprofits that were scheduled, say, this week or actually through March, April, and now we're going into May to be safe, what they want to do is start looking through later June, July, August, September. Now, for those of you that understand my industry, if you look at the bulk of human behavior, obviously charity events slow down when? The holidays, and then of course towards that end of the summer, kind of towards when school starts again. In Arizona, it's due to our heat, but generally I work all over the world and according to where people go. It's just kind of a norm. Also, just so you understand that the fiscal year for a nonprofit ends on July 1st. Their profits are reported by June 15th. So let's get our mind around all of this. What this means is that all of my events that were to take place in this month, March, April, May, have now called, and I'm basically moving them around like chess pieces for late June, July, August, September. Some decided to bounce into January. Now, what you have to understand is people like myself that are extremely booked, I'm already booked with other events who are very happy that they picked those dates.
Yeah.
So we are generously moving around. So far, everyone has worked out great. So it is
But what's the general sense? I don't mean to interrupt you, but just kind of let's take a step back first. There is a lot of fear and panic right now. I mean, for a lot of nonprofits, in particular the smaller and mid-sized nonprofits, they depend on these annual events to raise the funds that they need to drive all their programs for the following year. Kind of what's your sense of the conversations you've been having with the nonprofit leaders? So
the nonprofit leaders is taking a deep breath and calming down. The first thing we need to look at is what are you in financially to the event you were already planning. So there's one event whose name I won't mention is $300,000 in. Now you have to think of what the hotels, myself, the other vendors are going through. So what we want to do is not have anyone lose any money. We want to find something that works for everyone. So the first thing they're looking to do is look at a calendar date in which no money is lost.
Yes.
We're putting it on a pause. Okay?
And immediately reach out to your guests and your donors so everyone understands it's not canceled, it's postponed.
It's strictly postponed. As of right now, I'm running a 99% actual success rate on that.
When you hold an event, even if it's some of the larger ones you and I do that are 1,500 people, still you're relegated to the people who are inside that room.
Exactly.
What is the opportunity that is being missed to reach out in an innovative way online? And I wonder how you feel about that. And I know you're in some conversations about streaming, and I've done a telethon before, MDA telethon, when they switched over that format, and my friend April Warnicki, who's a weathercaster here in Phoenix, and I were here in Phoenix, and we did the telecast and joined into what was going on in LA with no live studio audience. So tell me about what do you think are the opportunities and what some of the big nonprofits and the small, mid-sized, whatever, should be thinking about.
Okay, so let's get this from the large nonprofit first, okay? Prior in my career as a nonprofit benefit auctioneer, I used to actually sell in warehouses. I mean, liquidating tons of auto mechanic pieces or whatnot. Those are online auctions. People could be bidding in Japan, China, it didn't matter. It's about a 7-second delay. A person like you would just be here. We'd have a couple bidders in the room, but you'd be on a computer watching how they bid. And when they bid, you would say yes, just like as if we were in a room which catching it. So that already exists. The technology exists. It's been going on for years, okay? The internet is a very viable way to still interact with a person actually selling live. Now, large nonprofit, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital was my first one to do this. Not just one item. We actually were sanctioned by the Golden Globes as the only event that could virtually bring the Golden Globes in the room and then do a fundraiser in between the segments on the commercials. So while I am standing in Minneapolis, I'm actually fundraising in Texas, I was fundraising in Memphis, I was fundraising in Florida, I was fundraising in all other ballrooms. Now, they can hear me, I can't hear them, but a person standing next to me just like you are, just like in that warehouse, has a little earpiece and you can see what's going on a screen. So for me, I'm a theater major, that's where Auctiontainment comes in. I can interact with them just based on what you're telling me how they're doing. So I was able to fundraise hundreds of thousands of dollars in like 7 or 8 states at one time on one night. Now, let's take that to a smaller nonprofit and let's go local. Let's talk about K2 Adventures Foundation. Kristen Sandquist, love them. They're coming up, and I just got and read to you that their April event, which should take place on April 24th, is going to go virtual. So they're going to actually take, we have already this technology, Auction Event Solutions, AES is one of my favorite. Basically, when you come to our events and you do electronic bidding or you're checking in, Robin Brashears is amazing. They're going to do an online event and go virtual. But here's the deal. I can still be a part of that. We all know that Instagram Live or Facebook Live or any of that, we can actually have an interactive component the same way we do. And also, this is a wonderful chance to pivot. Some of the most amazing breakthroughs in our world have come during a time where people didn't understand or see what's coming. I mean, everyone knows the movie The Big Short. Look back at our housing market crash in 2008. There was no such way or a product in which to short the housing market. It didn't exist.
Do you think that this could be an opportunity for a lot of nonprofits who we get used to sort of every year the attendance numbers grow and we look at that as a measure of success?
Oh yeah.
Do you think that there's a way to look at it now that maybe even smaller groups that are super well connected to the cause and then utilizing some of the technology, the live streaming, like you said, the auctiontaining online, and more storytelling. So essentially, like the programming online with stories about what's going on, with super connected people to the cause. Do you think that that's something that more people will be considering?
Yes. So that you know that what I've always told you that I'm not considering my largest attendance events a win. I've even just given you an example in Austin, Texas, an event that had 500 people in, 300. It just kept going down, 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 down. We were down to the lowest amount of people ever. It was like 225 people, and we made more than they did with the others because of the engagement rate. So what I mean by that is that if you're telling the right story, this isn't about sitting down and click to give and text to give. That's not what this is about. This is about connection. When you're going to be isolated or moved apart, you're going to need it more than ever. So this is an opportunity for nonprofits to really tell you what this is about. It's not, hey, can I have $1? Hey, do you have a second? And guess what? Right now, you do. People will be looking to their social media more than ever. They're working from home. You have people that are looking and saying, well, I'm going to catch up on my Netflix, or I'm going to catch up on this. Well, how about you turn and look at a couple things that are pretty interesting? Do you want to feel good? I have some amazing stories of triumph to share with you.
Yes.
And when you do that, and I'm going to mention towards the end of this segment, Carey, about a new platform that's developed, and in my opinion, it's just kind of perfect timing, even if it's not necessarily developed in response to this, it just happens to be timed in this, where it's about giving the giver more autonomy and saying where the donation goes and who and how I want to help. And I want to have a chance to tell you more about that. But I think that, yes, there's opportunity in this, Carey.
Yeah.
This is not a time to just freak out and panic. This is a time to say, okay, what is actually in front of me and how can I utilize it to my benefit? Let's think smaller. Maybe it's not spending as much money on this huge gala. Maybe it's 5 small gatherings with the internet bringing in thousands of more people. There's a lot more ways to look at this.
I want to ask you for your input on what you've seen used effectively, tools in the innovative realm. I know I did a live stream for Valley Youth Theater, which is a smaller theater company, amazing
I was there.
job they do. A live stream, it wasn't, it wasn't anything uber fancy, but we live streamed it, and they had several people contact them after seeing that and say, how do I sponsor? How do I find out more about what Valley Youth Theater is doing? We also did a live stream for Scottsdale Arts, and they have an incredible, innovative new CEO, Gerd Woosterman, and I like that sort of live stream thinking, and even if, like what you're saying, it's not a massive event, if it's a small gathering of 20 people, 30 people, when that is okay.
Yeah, when that's okay.
But I don't know, I'm excited about maybe rethinking what makes for a successful event. Because I think there is a lot of pressure to just put, I hate this phrase, but I'm going to use it right now, but just put butts in the seats.
I know, and that's what we call wood in my industry, because wood doesn't move. I want activity. It's not about the butt in the seat. And so one of the examples I'll give you was a smaller event I did out in the Hamptons, and that particular nonprofit was tied to a specific national brand of car, and they were going to give a car, but you can't say to the people that are on the wait list to get that car, P.S. we're just going to give one over here to these 100 people at this event. So we just took that one item and we went ahead and we went across the country, across the world, to anyone that was on that list, and that person that bought the car was in Montana while I was in the Hamptons, and the people in the room were having a blast. There was like 100 people in the room, but he was having a blast at home, laughing too, because he's listening to me, bantering back and forth, and he was like, we asked him later, interviewed him, he's like, I said, I had the time of my life, and I was in my pajamas in my living room. Yeah. So I didn't have to buy the gown.
It's ways of being inclusive that are non-traditional.
Exactly.
I love that. How is this crisis, if you will, impacting you personally? Because you are an entrepreneur and you do rely on these auctions to feed your family.
Again, this actually is where your human relationships and connections have come into play. So I might as well tell you how my business works. When people book me, they put down a 50% non-refundable deposit, and then the other is due in or around the event. The events that are happening right now that want to move out, what they're doing is they're actually paying me in my book time that they would now, as long as I can get them on another and it's paid in full. Because if I'm giving you away a fall event, even though most of my calendar is booked on those, because we're using oddity events. Like you might have had a Saturday night event, now it's going to be a Friday event.
Because you're booked out several years in advance, right? I know I book out like a year in advance.
Right So, so they've been really great. It's been gracious. They've been able to say, you know what, we're going to pay you in the time frame that we would have used you, because you're going to give up a date over here. So basically for me, it's been the grace of God. It really has been. But again, it's been about pivoting, and it's been about asking. It's been about asking through the relationship of, you know what, I've been with you a long time. I give a lot of my time. They said, absolutely want to see you paid for that in this time frame. But then I say, you know what, I'm going to waive that non-refundable deposit and I'm going to apply it over here. You know, I'm going to apply the whole thing over here. So it's about grace in each direction.
Yes, that those business transactions are done with grace.
Exactly.
Talk to us before we go about this new breakthrough in technology, uncommon giving, and we've been given the green light to share this with the audience.
We have. So I love when something starts in Arizona. So Uncommon Giving is right now in the incubation phases, meaning it's just about to come out in a platform on June 15th. It's at Grand Canyon University. So allow me to explain. We all know that we've been at Sprouts or we've been at your retailer, especially during the times of fires and crisis, and asked, would you like to round up? And you're like, sure. But the problem is you don't really have any say where that roundup is going. This platform was not designed in answer to where we are, but it eventually will be the answer to where we are. It was designed in the idea that when we talk about all those butts in the seat, and you know when we said wood to me is someone that doesn't do anything, it might be because they can't. So they can't give 100 or they can't give 500. So what the idea was is to give them a platform where they could give 20 cents, 30 cents, but over and over. So what it is that on June 15th, all Arizona nonprofits, and eventually this will roll out across the country. Uncommon Giving allows them to come, because that's when they clear their year financially, and they sign up and they're approved on this for people to choose from. So Arizona Foundation for Women, for example, I'm already going to talk to Misha and have an explanation of this and introduce them. Here's what they would do. They would go sign up. Then what I do is I get to go on and become a member, and I create what's called my virtual wallet, meaning that I go through my wallet and I decide, me, I decide what credit cards or what specific transactions that every time I do them, let's say every time I use my Wells Fargo Visa, I said, you know what, just round up. So if I'm checking out, let's say we're in a situation where we can't leave our houses. I'm on Amazon and I'm buying toilet paper.
Yeah, if you can find it.
Exactly. And the transaction is $38.52. And I'm like, well, it should be rounded up to 39. But the thing is that I choose where that goes. So I could say for every time I use that card, it's going to Arizona Foundation for Women.
Yes.
What it's allowing us is to round up, to have a say. It was developed with the idea of the fact that we lost the sort of UNICEF days where it was about the loose change that was taught up over time.
Yeah.
It was about giving an empowerment to the person that felt they couldn't be a part of it,
Yes.
sitting in that seat because they couldn't afford it. But the truth of the matter is they're ahead of a whole nother world where now it's about the autonomy of giving the individual giver that I might not be able to be at an event, but I can give to you based on my everyday habits, and I can give local.
So looking on the bright side right now, let's leave a couple of takeaway points. It's a time for us to pause and think about some of the good things that could be coming out of this, and hopefully everyone stays safe. Obviously, health is first and foremost, but leave some of your takeaways.
My takeaway has been that what I started out to say, this too shall pass. But I want you also to know that I'm big on this quote from Maya Angelou, and I really want you to listen to the words. People will forget what you say, and they'll forget what you do, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. This is a time right now for you to remember how to make other people feel. Don't make them feel panicked. Don't make them feel left out. Don't make them feel that you have more or they have less. This is a time, actually, it's funny, I went on my run this morning, and you know that I listen to podcasts, and somehow I pressed random on YouTube, a podcast came through on God's grace. And by definition, it meant to receive favor without warrant, right, or asking. That was what grace means.
Yeah.
So this is a time for grace. It's also one of those times where you can ask yourself, you're in world history, and you want to go back and think about the greatest generation, or you want to think about the people that defined history. They defined their history not by what they endured, their attitude while they went through it.
Yeah.
If you remember Viktor Frankl and you look at Auschwitz, it was about the last of the human freedoms was the ability to choose one's set of attitude and to choose one's attitude in any set of circumstances.
Yes.
That's what's happening now. Yes, it's a little out of our control, but the truth of the matter is life is usually out of our control. How we handle it is in our control.
And I would just say to the folks who are watching, and thank you guys so much for watching this segment, that supporting the nonprofits, even maybe because a lot of them are in a bit of a panic and really concerned about what this is going to mean for their ability to function for the coming year. But I think if you're a supporter, just even an email saying, great, when you reschedule, I'll be there. Or let us know how we can continue to support.
And Carey, this is something where you've always been so good about content and storytelling, and this is what I'm telling my nonprofits. You pretty much have their undivided attention right now.
Tell your story.
That Facebook page, that Instagram. How about some uplifting stories of people that are out there helping one another, standing up? It's trending right now. You know, there was a girl out helping a homeless person. You know, this is what I lived through 9/11. You lived through 9/11. I mean, this is when human grace comes out. I mean, my favorite trending right now out of Italy is the people that are out playing music outside on their balconies to one another and connecting.
That's and then, just the best video.
And then the one that the man's in the middle of the yard doing the exercises and teaching a class to everyone around him. It's about that again. And so go ahead and take that time as you're a nonprofit. Please share with us your favorite stories of the year, why you do what you do. I saw a little plea come out yesterday on email for a local animal shelter. I love animals. I mean, it's not like I can adopt anymore, but I'm considering maybe fostering for the next couple of weeks, a couple. I'm going to give them back, but maybe help them that way.
Yes.
Everyone can help in some sort of way, and maybe it's just your neighbor. You know, maybe you can spare a square. Just saying.
So that's a new trending hashtag. And I know you're doing a lot of consulting and you're so gracious with your time, but where can people find out more? Because I'm sure nonprofit leaders across the country may have questions for you.
100%. So LetitiaFrye.com, my website, is always a wonderful way you can field your questions in, and you get me, okay? Instagram, we all know that I'm on there. It's at Letitia_Frye. DM me, again, you'll get me. I am on Facebook, but I'll be honest, I'm not as interactive on Facebook as I am in those other two mediums. But go ahead and contact me. The other thing is that I am starting to, and you and I both know that we are actually looking to start more consulting because there is a link that we saw a long time ago between storytelling, media, and what happens on my end, and basically how to give, where to give, and why.
Well, it's because we both are so passionate about making these opportunities for the nonprofits, we look at it as more than an event.
Yes.
I want people, no matter if they're watching online or actually in the seat at the event that I'm emceeing and you're doing the auction for, I want people to leave that understanding a story that's been told to them and how they are helping to change their corner of the world.
What I want is that a misconception that I've spoken to you on other fronts about my book and different things was that people think, well, I'll give when? I'll give when? You have knowledge, time, gifts. Giving is not for the fortunate, giving is not for the wealthy, giving is grace.
Yeah.
So now is the time more than ever to figure out what it is you have and go ahead and give it.
Yeah, and it's a good time to research some of these nonprofits.
One thing that we all have right now that I'm pretty sure none of us have, time.
Yeah.
Give it.
Yes. Thank you so much, Tish, for coming down today.
Pleasure. Thanks
I know
for
you
taking
have
us on.
some meetings with some of your nonprofit clients today.
I have conference calls.
To try to help them, but you're doing a great job, and I think
Thank
that
you.
importantly, you're trying to keep everyone's spirits up.
It should be.
Yes.
It should be. There is something beautiful that can come from this, and the interesting part, and I remind you again, I said to my kids, this is not U.S. history. This is world history.
Yeah.
Humans showing up for humans, and we're doing something about it. So,
share a square.
Exactly.
Thanks, my friend.
Be kind.
And you can find out more information about all of our work and content and reach us at inspiredmedia360tv.com. Take care, everyone.